Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We have an absolutely packed show today coming right out of CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson's press conference and announcement of major changes to the game of Canadian football are coming to the 3-down league. Now, good news for you CFL hardcores. 3 downs is staying, albeit for the time being. He did not guarantee that wouldn't be a change later on. There were no guarantees made outside, but the ratio's staying. 12 players on the field is still staying, but some pretty big changes, though, to how the game is played and how it'll look for fans, including a shorter field, moving the goalposts back, 35-second clock, and more. So we'll touch on all of that. I did joke that the Bomber win on Saturday on Ottawa was so ugly that it forced the commissioner to act. That was an all-timer on Saturday. Chris Streveler, 3 of 8 for 54 in a win on the road against the Ottawa Redblacks. Hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many. The Bombers needed a win. And I tweeted out afterwards, yes, there's plenty of jokes made about what happened on Saturday. But from a Blue Bomber perspective, without their starting quarterback, with what they had on their roster going into that game, they absolutely needed to find a way to win. And the recipe for a win in Ottawa was great defense, was impactful special teams, was a powerful running game. And listen, after a bad pick early in the game, keeping the quarterback on a very, very short leash when it came to throwing the football, and they got it done. So Bombers don't have to apologize to anyone. They're definitely going to need to step up their ability to throw the football in the future if they expect to win more games and do anything in the playoffs. But 7-7 is a heck of a lot better than 6-8. They had to have it, and they got it. Of course, the Blue Jays have clinched the playoffs. We will touch on that. We had our first action in the preseason of the Winnipeg Jets last night. Many of the young players did get out to check out most of that game yesterday, so we'll touch on that. John Shannon will join us. Looking forward to looking ahead to the upcoming season. And listen, John's been around. He's been involved in broadcasting. I mean, he's done it all. I know he'll have a take on what we heard from Stuart Johnson today, so we'll do that well. And then Dustin Nielson, who had just finished up the lock shop. We did some sort of immediate reaction live over on EST. Dusty will join us in about an hour, and we'll dive a little bit more into everything we heard. But we'll play some of the clips for you if you missed it. And I know Reema's going to get some polls ready because we do want to see what Blue Bomber fans are feeling about what the commissioner just noted. Couple quick housekeeping tips. First of all, great to see everybody out at FanFest on the weekend. So much fun, a great event, and so many WSTers popping by to say hi. Special shout out to Bailey, the intern, who made those friendship bracelets for the WST crew, and a whole bunch that we were able to give out to folks that came up to the table. So that was really cool. But it was great to see everyone, and a fun few days to get training camp started out with the gang. Connor, Liss, Michael out at the Hockey for All Center. I always want to call it the Iceplex. Of course, we've got NFL to talk about as well. So we are going to pack it all in. I do want to remind everyone that we has been asking when we're getting back at it with our poker tourneys. The answer is Wednesday. Wednesday night poker with WST. We're going to have we've got a schedule out now until the end of the year, but this Wednesday, the 24th, 8 p.m., over on Coolbet. Check out our socials. We'll send out information on the mailing list, too, as to how you get involved. We'll also be giving out some tickets for the Bomber game to anyone that enters. We'll do a raffle for it, and then obviously all the fun and hijinks of the poker tourneys as we've done before. So that's Wednesday. Mark it down. Look forward to seeing you all there. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to all of our sponsors. Of course, our partners at Coolbet, Princess Auto, the HSC Millionaire Lottery. Don't forget, the first early bird deadline is Thursday at midnight. Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Princess Auto, F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, We will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp, Waverly McGillivray, and of course, tons of fan feedback on these CFL changes for fansfirst.ca. Welcome to everybody in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
What's going on? I'm wearing black today, Hustler, in honor of the death of the CFL. The game's over. The league, as we know it, is changed forever. So I'm wearing black. I'm in mourning for what we know as the Canadian game. I'm just kidding around. I'm feeling good here. Too much to get to. We're talking the Discord with listeners where we're all conversing about everything 24/7. Huss, where we could do like a 3-4 hour show here. Well, on the Bomber game, alone, but we have the Bomber game, the Jets preseason, Fan Fest Saturday, the new rules announced, NFL full slate of games, baseball, Blue Jays clinching. There's so much to get to here, so happy to be here on a Monday.
Listen, we should get to some of these announcements from Stuart Johnson right out of the gate, because this is all just in the last hour, live at noon our time. And I'll say one thing, Remus, just before we even get to these. The most amazing thing about this entire press conference was the fact that none of it was leaked before he went to the podium. Like, when was the last time there was a announcement making major changes for anything in sports that hadn't already been reported by some of the big J's or the insiders? I don't know whether they guys just didn't know, whether they were all on board for a reveal from the commissioner. But I will tell you that even at 11:30 this morning, kind of perusing social media, tons of speculation, but nothing concrete from anyone. And I'm sure it made for one of the most highly watched CFL pressers they've ever done, because there was a real level of intrigue and surprise when we heard Stuart Johnson roll it all out.
Yeah, it was yesterday at noon. I got an email in my inbox that there was a big announcement coming. It was like an all capitals major announcement about the game. And I was like, what game? Are they talking about the Grey Cup? They still haven't announced the halftime show. Is that what they're talking about? But no, it was significant rule changes to the field size, where the players are sitting on the bench, the goalposts, the rouge. So some big rule changes in a league that hasn't really changed the rules in years. And you're seeing other leagues like baseball putting in the pitch clock a couple years ago, which has significantly enhanced watching the game. The CFL saying, and new commissioner Stuart Johnson saying, I need to come in here, make my stamp on, and see if we can clean things up a bit to enhance entertainment. And their goal, as he said at the end, we'll play the clip. They want to reduce field goals, Huss, and create more touchdowns. And I think these rules will help them do that. Although I did put a poll on, Huss. What do you think of the CFL rule changes? And we've already had almost 100 people respond. 29% say hate them, 23% say love them, 27% say mixed feelings, and 22% not sure. So it's really
no one knows.
No one knows. Yeah, no one knows. So interesting reaction so far. But if you want to go over the changes, and we can say what we think about them. But it was crazy that not one insider, that no one leaked them, and there's a rampant speculation online, which is great because that's what online discourse is for. Complete rampant speculation.
Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp, Waverly McGillivray is up in the chat. What do you think of the CFL's upcoming rule changes? Vote now, and we'll continue to get your feedback throughout the day on the program. Here it is in a nutshell, folks, just before we hear from Stuart Johnson. The uprights are being moved off of the goal line. And listen, as a Bomber fan, it warmed my heart that in the video that they put together in the video they put together talking about moving the goalpost, they talked about how difficult it is for teams to throw at that point, how they sort of now just focus in on the sidelines in the end zone. And of course, they showed the clip of Cody Fajardo ringing it off the crossbar in the West Final here in Winnipeg a few years ago. That's not going to be happening anymore. And it will certainly open up offensive possibilities. For a long time, and I don't know if it's been a major issue, but at times those things get in the way. There's also player safety. You often see every now and then some defensive guy just get trucked by the field goal post when he's losing track of a defender. So they're going to be moving to the back of the end zones. The end zones, which are not standard from field to field, have been usually 20 yards. That's going to move to 15. So it's going to be a 15-yard end zone, still the biggest in professional football. The width of the field is not changing. So instead of kicking a 50-yard field goal from the 50-yard line, a 50-yarder will now be kicked from the 35-yard line, which certainly will encourage teams to go for it more. Obviously, at times punted as well. But we won't be having the field goal go zone basically be center field for kickers like Sergio Castillo. The field is changing to 100 yards. Now, I know this will be a bit of consternation for some folks, but if you shrink the field 5 yards on each side to a 100-yard field and then add the 15 yards in each end, you're still talking about 100. You're talking about 130 yards from field goal post to field goal post as opposed to before 110 to 110. So that will change things. I think it'll make offenses be a little bit more aggressive. And the bottom line is, it should create more touchdowns. The estimate from the commissioner was an additional 60 touchdowns they expect when these rules are enacted. The clock is going to change. And Remo, I still want a little more clarification on exactly how the clock will change. It's going to be an automatic 35-second clock on all plays. I do love the way the clock is run in the Canadian Football League in the final 3 minutes, so I hope that's not changed too much, and that will sort of be out there. And then, of course, is the Rouge. We have modified Rouge rules now here, folks. You will no longer get a single point for punting it through the end zone. You will not get a single point for missing a field goal through the end zone. But if the ball goes into the end zone, the returner will need to run it out. If they get the ball and they just kneel it, it will be a Rouge. So sort of a modified Rouge. The bottom line here, Remo, is the ultimate nightmare of the Canadian Football League commissioner that a Grey Cup, a championship, is won on an unsuccessful play will no longer be the case in the CFL.
Yeah, I'm a big Rouge guy, Huss. I think it encourages returns. We saw on the weekend Trey Val returning the missed field goal out of the end zone, which we probably won't see as much anymore with the posts moving back. But yeah, it was always create negative press for the CFL, Huss, when someone would win off a missed field goal. And I think a lot of the changes here make sense. When they announced, big changes coming, I think you get your guard up and you're like, they're going to ruin our Canadian game. They're going to take it away from us. They're turning us into the States. But I don't think they did that at all. They kept a lot of things in that make the game Canadian, like 3 downs, like the wide field, like the waggle, like the big end zones. And these changes just make sense. The goalpost being in the middle of the field, it's a safety hazard. You see players. I know people laugh that they're in the way, but I think that's the point. They discovered, hey, when you're close to the end zone, quarterbacks aren't throwing to the middle because they're trying to avoid. So you're only throwing to the corners and to the sides. It's going to open the game up. And because you're moving the field goal, the goalpost back, well, you have to squish the field. You have to squish the end zones. And it was funny to hear that, the end zones in Toronto and Montreal, they're not 20 yards anyway. So now you have the same end zones throughout every stadium. You're having consistency with the play clock. I think there's going to be a change in the amount of time that runs off. However, you had this issue where in between plays, would you have to wait for them to blow it in? And the amount of time that it takes for them to blow it in would be different from one play to the next. Now it's just going to be 35 seconds after the previous play. And as you said, they want to create more touchdowns which lead to more highlight reel plays, which, maybe you'll share it on social media or it'll be shown on TV and would attract more eyeballs. You see people in chat, how is this going to create more butts and seats in Toronto? I don't think it would have that impact right away, but I think long term it's going to create more, as they said, more touchdowns, more exciting plays. You're not going to have a team limited to half the field because of these goalposts in the way. And that was the number one priority, I think, for the commissioner, to move the goalposts back, and they went from there. So I was ready to hate all this, but I think it made sense, and what's going to open up the field way more.
Yeah, listen, when it comes down to it, I'm certainly not opposed to innovation. I am supportive of things that can make the game better. But I also appreciate the Canadian football game as it's been. And I'll say this, I don't think there's anything that they announced yesterday or earlier today that is a hill to die on for me. I actually, listen, I can get on side with the no single point for, the punt through the end zone or the missed field goal. But at the same time, I'm sort of here for, the uniqueness of keeping the Rouge in and encouraging, teams to run the ball out. And I think that it's going to change punting as well. As far as where you want the punt to go, do you want to get it into kind of the mid or deep part of the end zone without going out and force the team to have to try to run it out either to get the single point or keep them closer to the goal line if they do successfully get it out? So, listen, I'm really intrigued as to how this all plays out when we get actually onto the games, and it will be rolled out kind of over the course of the next 2 years. That was another thing that Stuart Johnson said. But let's hear from this. Now, Justin Dunk was there today, and he asked the commissioner, these are pretty significant changes. He's been on the job for, 5.5 months. Asked Stuart Johnson about how these major significant changes that were announced today came to be.
You've only been on the job 151 days. How did you get to the point where you're making these types of changes in that little time frame? Can you take us through the process?
Sure. I came to this job with a message to the league governors, and they gave me the same message back. Status quo is unacceptable. So I came in with a lot of energy, and I've got an incredible team at the league office. I did a listening tour over the first 100 days, and we gathered a very small group at the league office that included football ops, marketing, data analytics, and we pushed forward these changes. We analyzed them, we understood, and every step of the way, we became more excited. Everything we unearthed was, oh my goodness, this is even better than we thought. This is going to create such an entertaining product on the field. At that point, we gathered all that data, presented to the league governors, and had unanimous and enthusiastic approval.
And that's something I think it is important to note. And I think it's great for the league that, if they're going this way, this is a united front moving forward. Enthusiastic, unanimous support of these rules from the entire Canadian Football League. And I know Wade Miller's going to be speaking quite a bit, I'm sure, over the next couple days. We'll get his take on all of this. But I think there are some things actually to be excited about, as much as many people are somewhat worried about change. Now, the biggest worry of change, I think, comes down to the unique fabric of the Canadian game. 3 downs, the wider field, the Canadian ratio, 12 players. The 4 downs, though. When you see moving to a 100-yard field, obviously some CFL traditionalists get their backs up. Justin Dunk asked the commissioner about a potential 4-down league in the future. Here's how that conversation went.
In the past, there's been some rumors about the league potentially going to 4 downs. The hardcore fans are going to look at these changes and think this is going that way. Can you guarantee that under your watch, the CFL will never go to 4 downs?
I don't offer guarantees. I don't say the word never. However, I will say this was our major focus on the rules of the game and the infrastructure on which we play. I think you're going to hear a lot from myself and the league with exciting announcements over the next coming weeks and months. We're not focused on rules. Of course, we have a rules committee, and it will annually look to tweak and improve our game. But we have a lot of other exciting announcements we're working on, and that's our focus.
All right, so no guarantees on anything, but this is what is happening right now, and we'll see how this moves forward. That was the one, I was paying attention to the live chat as it went. That was the one time where there maybe were a few alarm bells from some CFL traditionalists, if you will. Now, this is going to be phased in over the next 2 seasons. Here's the commissioner on why the phased rollout of the changes announced today.
We've moved the field infrastructure changes to 2027 to give all the clubs enough time to consider the impact of changing turf, changing paint, changing goalposts, figuring out new premium seating availability because we've shortened the field by 20 yards. So there's going to be more area behind the field. So it gives the teams enough time to focus on that. It also gives us enough time to have conversations with amateur football in Canada and see where they'd like to go and describe why we're making these changes and see if they align to that. And finally, for the changes we're instituting in 26, we're getting at it. There was no reason to avoid those changes. You just saw us announce my priority. This was it. I came to the office with a lot of focus. When did I start thinking about goalposts? I think it was September 1987. I think that was it. I was playing quarterback on my football team, and I wasn't very good. However, I threw one of the best passes of my life on a post pattern. I think it was probably a 35-yard bomb. That's about the extent of my arm. And my favorite receiver, Jason Dewar, was running that post pattern, and that spiral was tight, and it landed on the ground right next to the post because, understandably, he had let up trying to avoid a steel post that was in his way. And I thought, why do we do this? And then when we brought the team together, boy, did the analytics just absolutely supported what moving those posts out of the way can do for our game. So it's a priority. We didn't look at other rule changes and discard them. This really was the focus.
All right, now one more from Stuart Johnson, and this is on his thoughts on why these changes will help bring in more fans rather than drive any away.
We think touchdowns are an important driver for fandom. And ultimately what we're doing is we're trading field goals for touchdowns. And with all respect and appreciation for our field goal kickers, I did actually also kick when I was playing high school, so I do have a close connection there. This is going to create more touchdowns, and more touchdowns creates more highlights, and highlights drive through all forms of media, and that does drive fandom.
All right, we'll talk about this more. Dustin Nielson is going to join us after 2 p.m. for his thoughts on some big changes to the Canadian Football League moving forward, as we just laid out and heard from CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson earlier today. Gang, John Shannon's going to join us in a few minutes. It is a perfect time to remind you all to jump on it and get your tickets for the HSC Millionaire Lottery this week, gang, because we have 3 days remaining until the first fall bonus deadline. Listen, if you're going to be getting your tickets to support Manitoba's hospital with so many important initiatives here in our community, and get in on the chance to win one of 5 incredible home packages worth $1.5 million or the $1.25 million grand prize in cash, you may as well get them in early and be eligible for some of the incredible prizes that are available for the early birds. Now, the fall bonus is eligible to anyone purchasing their tickets before midnight on Thursday. There are 3 prizes, including the top fall bonus prize, a 2026 Toyota RAV4 valued at $46,500, or $40,000 in Indigeno travel vouchers plus $5,000 cash, or $40,000 cash. And in addition, there'll be 2 other winners in the fall bonus deadline of $1,000 in Red River Co-op gift cards for gas and groceries. And then, of course, you'll be eligible for the super bonus, which is coming up early in October, which has $25,000, $55,000 cash, 4 winners of $4,000 Red River Co-op gift cards, and some great stuff for sports fans. There's a package that has a jet suite for 12 guests with food and beverage, $1,000 jet skier gift card, $25,000 in Indigeno travel vouchers. We've got the Grey Cup bonus coming up as well with tickets to the 112th Grey Cup at Princess Auto Stadium, and so much more. And of course, back to the grand prize, the granddaddy of them all, one of 5 incredible home packages worth $1.5 million each, or you can take $1.25 million in cold hard cash. Bottom line is right now, no better time to get your tickets for the HSC Millionaire Lottery than right now. Go to hscmillionaire.com and get your tickets today. If you would like to purchase them in store, you can pop by your local Red River Co-op location or London Drugs and help the HSC do what they do for our community and become a millionaire. Manitoba's next millionaire at the same time. Again, hscmillionaire.com to purchase your tickets today. Our friends at Rolly's Transfer are ready for fall, and if you are picking up and moving, lean on the experts and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, Rolly's Transfer, for your next move. Head on over to their website at rollys.com. They'll tell you all about their story. Over 60 years, family owned and operated here in Winnipeg. And of course, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around real quick and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's, Manitoba's most trusted name in moving. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are busy right now. Of course, kids are back to school. We're getting back into the fall grind, and maybe there's a few things that have been left by the wayside, including seeing the dentist. Well, if you got to go see the dentist or you're looking for a great spot that you and your family can lean on for years, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and would love to do the same for you and your family, handling patients from 6 months to 99 plus with everything from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implant services. Go to stvitaldental.ca for all the information on what they've got. Of course, they've got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with convenient free parking right behind the building. But give them a call or make an appointment at stvitaldental.ca and make sure you tell them your friends at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And hey, just before we're going to bring in John Shannon in just a minute. That game on Saturday may have drove some Bomber fans to drink, but I'll tell you what, that the sip of victory afterwards was worth it, although what a white-knuckle ride it was for the Bombers. Of course, speaking of spirits in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the blue and gold. And right now, while supplies last, you can grab the special Winnipeg Blue Bomber label Canadian Club bottle at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And of course, coming up on Saturday, there'll be a lot of CC flowing as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are back at Princess Auto Stadium hosting the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts for the limited edition Blue Bomber Canadian Club bottle. And don't forget, we got some nice weather coming up. Still a great time to enjoy that CC Club Pack with the CC and Ginger Citrus Smash and half, available at your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, John Shannon going to be coming up with us in just a few minutes. Remo, we did have a hockey game last night, and sandwiched in between the Bombers on the weekend, the CFL announcement today, all of that NFL action yesterday. It was a chance for the young players on the Winnipeg Jets to step up and try and move a little further up the depth chart, if you will, as the veterans get ready to play some exhibitions games later on. And tell you what, Kevin, he got a lot of love in the building last night down at Canada Life Center for the first preseason game of the year.
Yeah, a bit of a younger lineup, first preseason game on a Sunday afternoon against Minnesota. We know Jonathan Taves will make his debut tomorrow, but it wasn't yesterday. and a number of guys, looking to make an impact in lineup. I think Kevin one of the more noticeable players. He doesn't stop moving, skates fast. Had a beautiful back pass to Danny Zhilkin, who's really been on a tear here, starting with the development camp. As far as NHL players go, one guy who we expect to make a leap this year has Morgan Barron. He's playing special teams, scored a goal on the power play. You have to think with Adam Lowry out, this is a guy who we think can take a step forward. And once he moved to center last year, we saw him do that. We know he's got speed, winning the fastest skater on the team in the skills competition. You look at the NHL Edge stats, he is among the fastest forwards in the league. So could we see him take a leap this season? So the Jets ultimately lost 3-2 in overtime. I don't think anyone is getting too bent on the result. It was nice to be back for many at Canada Life Center with some changes in concessions that are getting some serious hype out there, Huss. But 3-2 loss to Minnesota. It was a younger lineup. We'll move on, and we're just one day closer to the regular season starting.
Okay, I didn't hear any of the hype about the new concessions. I kind of went in a little later, grabbed a beer, and just sat and watched the game, and then took off afterwards. But tomorrow, myself, Connor, and Liz are going to be at the game, and I guess we're going to get a bit of a sneak preview at some of the things that are coming in this year. So we will have a full report, both on WST on Wednesday, as well as potentially on
so this.
Oh wow!
This is what the Jets put on social media yesterday before the game. Now in the building, Slurpees are now available at Canada Life Center. And I remember like Mike or whoever would go to Dallas, and they had a 7-Eleven there. And we're like, well, why wouldn't that be here? This is the Slurpee capital of the world, and they made it happen. So I'm curious how that's going to go. I would get one at a game. That looks amazing. A nice, what is that? Polar Night or Aviator Blue Slurpee that they're filling up in this promo video here. So yeah, you guys are going to be sampling it all. I know I was talking to Liz about putting together a video on social media as well, detailing all the changes. So they always have something new for the season, and yeah, it's preseason. Good time to show it off.
We'll have boots on the ground tomorrow with the latest on both what happens on the ice. Jonathan Toews expected to play his first preseason game as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. We'll see many more veterans in the lineup tomorrow, and then we'll let you know what's waiting for you at the rink when you head out there for the game. Yeah, I can tell you, Remis, there was nobody raging in the concourse on the way out after the overtime goal. Kind of a weird one. It seemed like it hit off something, went about 20 feet in the air, and Trennan just popped it down past Milic on the end to get the winner. But let's hear from Scott Arniel. Let's go with number 5 here, Reem. Arniel was asked after the game, what he thought about many of the young players in the lineup and who sort of stood out to him.
There's a lot. I think the Zilkin line. I thought all 3 of those guys were real good. He and Fagemo, I thought those guys they all played really well. That to me, the game was we were real good in the first half. They were a lot better in the second half. But I thought, I'm watching some of the guys that are trying to make our hockey team that'll probably end up being here.
You could ask me that at some point.
Seeing how they fit, us moving Anderson Dole in the middle, trying to see what he looks like in the middle, getting a sort of a live read on Koepke and Dewar. Then Lambert and Yager, watching those guys with Peter Giuseppe. So a little bit of everything. I kind of watch them all and kind of watched them the last 4 days in practice. I got to see some of those other guys in Montreal, and so it's just kind of following up and seeing how they're progressing.
All right, we'll have a little bit more on the Jets coming up a little later on the program. But let's right now welcome in, as we get ready to drop the puck again on the upcoming season, our good friend John Shannon. You can find he and Darren Millard online with the 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon podcast. And we're just about ready to get back at it. And John joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you, my friend? Great to catch up again.
Good to see you too, Andrew.
Hey, just off the bat, everyone's talking about CFL. You've been involved in broadcasting for so long in sports. I mean, I know we usually talk hockey, but interested in your perspective of what we just heard from Stuart Johnson with these changes coming to the Canadian Football League.
Well, I think a few of them are ones that have been discussed for a long period of time. For instance, the single point with if the ball goes through the end zone, a team should not get rewarded for incompetence in one way or the other, if that's what you want to call it, particularly on a missed field goal. Moving the goalposts, I would assume, is more of a safety issue than anything else. Shortening of the end zones, I can understand that too. They don't bother me. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I am a little disappointed in getting rid of one of the trademarks of the Canadian Football League, the 55-yard line. I think the bigger field with the extra player made a huge difference. And so that is one that I'm a little concerned with. Opposite benches, I mean, they've tried to standardize this system so many times, and it has never worked, particularly with some way some of the stadiums are constructed. And basically what happened was the Eastern Conference teams, sorry, there I'm old again, the Eastern Division teams were happy to put the benches on the same side, whereas most of the teams in the West did not want to do that. So having them on opposite sides, I think, is smart, particularly when we're starting to see incidents like we saw a week ago with the Argonauts doing what they did. So there's a few other things. The revised 5 seconds, I'm not sure what difference that will make to the way the game is played. Let's face it, our game has been faster than the NFL for years and years and years, more plays, and hopefully we can be able to continue that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, and especially being here in Winnipeg, John, because listen, we've heard so much about the Canadian Football League and what needs to change, and how they can start filling some of these stadiums elsewhere, where we're in the middle of a golden era of Blue Bomber football. Every single game has been sold out this year. So I think the need for change, or the thoughts of that, people around here are like, well, I don't know, things are pretty good so far. But it is clear that, and you mentioned many of these changes have been talked about for a long time, and it's pretty clear that Stuart Johnson came in with a mandate to take this game forward, and this is the first part of his plan to do exactly that.
Well, the amazing thing is that if Stu's been able to get 9 different teams and different ownership groups to agree on anything, then he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize more than anything else, because we all know in the CFL that has been one of its issues, is that what affects people in Hamilton or affects people in Toronto don't necessarily affect people in Winnipeg or Regina. And so there's always been disagreement, and to find a way to get all the teams on the same page, at least for this small group of changes, is a revelation in the Canadian Football League. I was, when I heard about the press conference this morning, I was just concerned we were going to see 4 downs. I really was. I was worried we were going to see a 4-down game, maybe not this year, but in years to come. And quite frankly, I just don't want to see a 4-down game in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on that. And listen, he was asked about that by Justin Dunk. There were no guarantees, or there were no nevers, but he, I guess, told people to stand down somewhat. This is what they're focusing on, and we'll see what that happens in the future.
Yeah, the interesting thing, Andrew, is that, when you and I were kids, the end zone was 25 yards.
Yeah, went on forever.
It went on forever, and you could actually, run a really good pass play in the end zone, even if you were at the 3-yard line. Then because of what went on in BC Place, where they couldn't put a 25-yard end zone, the rules got modified to 20. BMO Field in Toronto can only do 17-yard end zones now anyway. So to go to 15 yards so we can standardize it across the league, there is a little bit of common sense and logic to it. The moving the goalposts from the safety factor, I understand, is changing perhaps the attitude of when do you kick the field goal. At what yard line? Are you at the 35 now? So that's a 57-yard field goal. And perhaps that's going to allow for more offensive plays long before the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, I just had to laugh, and I was mentioning this before, but when they talked about moving the end zones, and moving the goalposts back and not having them in the way anymore, of course they showed, which is a highlight to Blue Bomber fans, Cody Fajardo ringing it off the crossbar in the West Final a few years ago. But listen, I do think it'll be good for the game. Well, thanks. I was really interested in your perspective on that, being involved in sports in this country for so long. But of course, we're getting ready to drop the puck on hockey season. And, John, I would say this. I mean, everyone is talking about it here in Winnipeg, but the return of Jonathan Toews to the National Hockey League isn't just a Winnipeg story. It is a massive NHL story. And, folks, if you haven't already checked out the latest on the 100% Hockey Pod with John and Darren Millard, Mark Chipman was the guest talking about Jonathan Toews, and very, very interesting listen for folks that you should check on that. And Remis will throw up the link in the chat so people can jump over and give them a sub there as well. I can't remember anticipation for a preseason game for tomorrow like anything since the first preseason when the team came back in 2011. John, what do you think about this return to the league and to his hometown of Jonathan Toews? And where does that rank among the most intriguing stories in the league as we get ready to drop the puck?
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at it. First of all, you hope that Jonathan is 100% healthy and that he's 100% able to perform at a level that we have been used to seeing Jonathan Toews perform at, really before the last two seasons he played in Chicago. Last two seasons in Chicago, Andrew, were not his best. But you have to wonder what health issues he had at that point. And so hopefully with his time away from the game, he's been able to get back to a level of health. He certainly looks like he's back at a level of health that is reminding everyone of the Stanley Cup runs for the Blackhawks. I actually mentioned this on CJOB last night. I would imagine there's a ton of veteran players who don't necessarily lobby to play in preseason games, will lobby to play tomorrow night. Will say, I want to be on that bench. I want to be on that ice when Jonathan Toews shows up. And I want to be his teammate. And you're right. I think probably a night that a lot of Jets fans will remember, the day that Jonathan Toews literally played for their hockey club, because it's been a pipe dream since 2011. Get Toews back to Winnipeg. And I don't think anybody thought it was possible. Andrew, you listened to what Mark said on the podcast, that he has maintained a relationship for a few years since the time in Humboldt that they were together. And this is a journey that both Jonathan and Mark and the organization are going to relish, particularly in a preseason game where let's hope he can contribute and win a few faceoffs.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Listen, if anything that we've seen from camp, he still has it in the draw. He'll be good in the faceoff circle. That much I know.
Well, and let's face it, the Jets need that, right? Oh. When you talk about all the strength that this hockey club has, you'd go down the stat sheet at the end of the game and you'd say faceoffs 47%, and you're going, you're not going to win big playoff games if you don't win more draws than the other team. And that to me is a factor.
John, you and we spoke all last year about, the decisions that the team, had to make regarding players. And obviously they kept on a hold on Nikolai Ehlers, who then went to the Carolina Hurricanes. And he's such a unique player that did so many things that not a lot of other guys can do. How do you think the team moves forward without Nikolai Ehlers, and where and who do you believe will need to step up into bigger roles to hopefully maintain the level of success without a guy that was such a driver on both 5-on-5 and on the power play?
So what I think now is the mindset is not long-term. If Ehlers was to return and re-sign in Winnipeg, it was going to be a long-term deal, 6 years maybe. I think that in essence now, that top 6 forward position that he was in might become one of those, we're going to address it every year or every second year. This year, it's going to be Gus Nyquist, who I think that people will be thrilled with as a Winnipeg Jet. I have known people been around Nyquist in his numerous stops, and all they can talk about is what a great teammate he is, how talented he is, and he can be a difference maker. Why he has moved around as much as he has is a mystery to me. Probably because he's in that middle class, Andrew, where you can move him and get an asset for him for the future at some point. So I think Nyquist will be a big factor for this hockey club as the season rolls on. There have been a few guys like that. I put him in the same class as Nino Niederreiter, and with the same quality of player and person that has found a home in Winnipeg. So I think that in the short term, and when I mean short term, I'm talking this season, I think Gus Nyquist will fill in admirably and will do just a fine job in that situation.
And, you mentioned, the type of guy that he wants. One of the other things that was a topic on the 100% Hockey when you had Mark on was the team culture. And, we've spoken for a long time about, the changes that were enacted when Rick Bowness took over, and how 3 years later, how it has completely changed this locker room and, in a lot of ways, just the overall likability of the team, to be honest with you, in the market. But, from your conversation for folks, what did you garner from Mark's vision as the top guy about the culture of the Winnipeg Jets and how important that is when bringing players like a Gus Nyquist into the room?
Well, I do think that 3 years ago there needed to be a real shift. And you, Andrew, you remember those end of season interviews with some of the players. The one that jumps out at me is Kyle Connor, who talked about a need for a change in culture. That was that summer to find a coach that could change the culture. They changed the captain because of the change in culture. There was a system put in place that allowed the players to play the games without making it a political statement every time something went right or something went wrong. Rick Bowness deserves a ton of credit for that. And as does Scott Arniel, who was part of that original staff and is now the head coach. So for me, this last 3-year window is where the family has truly started. And that's the word that Mark used on Friday, was family. And you could see that in so many ways, the way the season ended last year with the tragic events in Dallas and in Southern Ontario with Mark Scheifele's father, and how the players managed through that. And how, to me, the best example of what we saw about the Winnipeg Jets family, and we didn't talk about this Friday, was at the end of the game with Mark Scheifele in the penalty box. Adam Lowry skates across the ice into the penalty box to console his teammate under the circumstances that ended that game. That spoke volumes to family, volumes to leadership that exist now in this dressing room. And that's what I think has been a really important part of the success of the last 3 years, and particularly the team that won the President's Trophy.
Yeah, no, listen, that is a moment that I think is etched in everyone's mind, and you're sort of really solidified. I think everything that we'd seen grow over the last 3 years. The captain's out for the first little while of the season. Just from a straight hockey perspective, you've got a guy in Vlad Nemestikov that's able to play up and down the lineup. What did you think of Morgan Barron last year once he moved after the trade deadline to the center position? And, how do you feel about Morgan being a consistent center and the opportunity for him maybe to play a little bit more in a more impactful situations in the early part of the season with the captain on the shelf?
Well, I thought the move and if memory serves me, he got moved to center after Adam got hurt in Salt Lake City. I thought it was a revelation. And to take advantage of his size, to take advantage of his speed, and to put him in that position, and then eventually get him to be the number 4 center, I think was a stroke of genius by this coaching staff. The fact that he's going to be given, I think, another opportunity to do that, and who knows, when you talk about Vladdy Nemesnikov going up and down the lineup, who knows that if in the end, before the season starts, perhaps we're going to see Morgan Barron in the number 3 and Nemesnikov in the number 4 spot, or David Gustafsson doing what he's done so well. This team is so darn deep that I don't think any of us now will be surprised if that Scott is able to move the players around and make a decision what he thinks in the short term is best before Adam returns. And then when Adam does return, and you look at the depth chart and you say Scheifele, Taves, Lowry, Barron, you go, oh my goodness gracious. Size, speed, smarts, that is a pretty good group of centers for this hockey club. And that doesn't include Nemesnikov, who has become, I know he's Russian, a true Swiss Army knife for this hockey club.
No, there's no doubt about it. And Vlad's seen him pretty much. He's been on the wing. He's played center on pretty much every line on this team, and will continue to be available and deployed as needed by head coach Scott.
Here's the other key to that. Sorry to interrupt, Andrew. He wants to be in Winnipeg. Niederreiter wants to be in Winnipeg. They have created that family that players want to play in Winnipeg. And that is part of the magic that really is going on right now at Canada Life.
I guess part of having guys want to be in Winnipeg, you need it if you're going to re-sign them. What are you hearing, and what do you think about this next deal for Kyle Connor? In the backdrop of a report a week ago that Kirill Kaprizov turned down 8 years at $16 million.
Well, I don't. It's funny. Again, back to our conversation with Mark. There are 4 superstars in the National Hockey League going into their last year that people are worried about. Some on a national level, but certainly all on a local level. And it's Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Kirill Kaprizov, and Kyle Connor. I fully expect that Eichel and Connor will sign before the other 2. So from that perspective, I don't see many issues for what the Jets are going through now, and to get the deal done. Do I know that the deal's close? Absolutely not. I think one of the most amazing things in the negotiations for all 4 of the contracts is they've been keeping a lot of it secret. And that is something that I think has surprised so many people about the negotiations. Kyle Connor loves Winnipeg. Winnipeg loves Kyle Connor. I've heard numbers. You've heard numbers. To me, it has to be 8 digits. I'm not sure whether that's 10, 11, or 12. Perhaps it depends on the term. And who knows how long the term's going to be, because the player now has to contemplate, if I take a shorter term, I am then gambling that the cap is going to continue to rise exponentially. And in 4 years, I can get an even better deal. So that's the challenge, I think, that Kyle has with his agent. I think that's the challenge that Kevin has in order to try to keep him happy. So from that perspective, if somebody says he's going to sign for $11 million for 4 or 5 years, it wouldn't surprise me. I've heard the number 12. 12 sounds like an awful lot of money to me. But it's not my money to spend and not my money to save.
John Shannon's with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Back to the team going into training camp and now into the preseason, John. You mentioned how admirable the depth is of Winnipeg. With that often does come very crowded crowded depth charts, and I'm not sure you'll find one in the National Hockey League that is more crowded with guys on one-way deals. I was at the game last night, really impressed with Elias Salomonsson. Would love to see him play, some more preseason games with some of the more experienced players. But even taking him out of the mix, with Luke Shannon here, with Hayden Fleury re-signed, you've got Ville Heinola, you've got Logan Stanley. There are 9 players right now on one-way deals. John, how do you see this shaking out? Because something at this point has to give finally, whether it be put a player you've put a lot into on waivers or potentially some sort of a deal before roster cutdown day.
Well, I'm not worried about Josh Morrissey. How's that? When you look at what Morrissey, DeMello, Pionk, Sandberg, all of a sudden your first 2 pairs are in pretty good shape, and then you do what you did and look at the rest of it. The guy that's still on the bubble, and it's rinse and repeat, is Ville Heinola. What happens with him this time around? I agree with you about last night too. I thought that Salomonsson was really good. He was impressive. Obviously, he was given accolades in the American League last year for his presence on the blue line. It's going to be difficult to keep him off a roster if he keeps playing this way, and that will be the challenge in the discussion between coach and manager about what do we do now. The other thing is, and we've seen this before, Kevin's not afraid to, if he can package something up and try to improve the team somewhere else, perhaps that's something he can look at. To be fair to the players, and again, the guy at the top of that list is Heinola, who has, I think, been loyal in these scenarios to the organization. But I can't imagine him being more frustrated than he was last year before the injuries in this situation. So it's going to be a difficult one. 9 guys under contract for really 6 jobs and maybe a 7th job, and so there's going to be 2 guys that are going to be in tough.
What do you see Luke Schen's role this year, assuming he's part of the crew? Is this a guy that kind of splits time from being in the lineup to in the press box, maybe in a bit of a a back and forth with Colin Miller role, or is he a guy that you think is an everyday guy that will miss the odd game when necessary?
Oh, I think you have to expect that Luke Schenn will play at least 70 games. I think that he's on your 3rd pair. He's going to be helping that 6th defenseman, whether it's Miller or Fleury or Heinola or Salomonsson. To me, Luke Schenn he's a glue guy. I know that's a cliche, but he's the type of guy that this team always has talked about of getting some veteran leadership. When Kevin or Scott talk about having Stanley Cup pedigree, they mentioned Taves 3. They mentioned Tanner Pearson's 1. And then they also mentioned Luke Schenn and what he did in Tampa. So from that perspective, I think that he's the 5 guy. He's the number 5 guy for the most part. The way he plays the game, you have to expect he's going to miss a few. But I think that at this point, you're thinking that he has to play 70 games.
Well, and what's interesting, John, thinking about that in that, they didn't need to sign Hayden Fleury. They wanted to. They got him signed back, which obviously I think would indicate that they very much have plans for him in the lineup. And of course, Colin Miller's on the right side as well, and a guy that can do both. It is not inconceivable that both Ville Heinola and Logan Stanley find themselves on the outside looking in once you cut that 9 down to 7.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I think it's funny. The Fleury story is a fascinating one for me. I admire what the organization did, because I think the organization was loyal to Fleury after Fleury signed in Winnipeg for the common sense that if he was going to play in the NHL, it was going to be here. And if he was going to play in the AHL, it was going to be here. And I think that there was enough times during the season that he showed. Remember, he was very good until he got injured the first time around, Andrew. I think that he's a prototypical Jet guy. I think that speaks to the ultimate teammate in him. I think that speaks to his ability to play the game and his ability to be a depth guy at the same time. And they have a lot. I'm not sure there's a team on the blue line deeper than the Winnipeg Jets in the NHL at this point, which, at a certain point, closer to the end of camp, when you're in the press box, ask how many scouts are in town and how many scouts are looking around, because people are always going to be looking for defensemen, and Kevin has a few extras.
John, thanks so much for doing this. Fill people in. Just give a quick plug for the Mark Chipman interview and let us know what else is coming up with you and Darren on 100% Hockey.
Well, we're going back to 3 days a week. We can't do this every day like you guys. I mean, we're old. So we go Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a new episode, 100% Hockey. It's on most every platform, the same platforms that you can get Winnipeg Sports Talk. We don't do a video show at this point yet, but it's one of those things that I think that we're pretty proud of and what we've done. I think our guest list is as good as any guest list that is out there on a regular basis. Today's show is John Davidson, the former president of the Blues, Blue Jackets, and Rangers, who's talking about Bernie Parent and then some great old stories about playing goal in the NHL in the 1970s with very little padding or protection. And then on Wednesday or Thursday, I think we're doing Phil Pritchard, the guy who has the assignment of going around the world with the Stanley Cup in first class.
The keeper of the cup.
The keeper of the cup. So hopefully we'll have some good stories to tell later in the week. And then you never know. I mean, the Rolodex keeps working. And yes, Andrew, I still have a Rolodex.
John, thanks so much for doing this. Can't wait to chop it up with you this year, talking Winnipeg Jets in the National Hockey League. And as I said, certainly recommend folks get on over to the YouTube channel or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Check out the Mark Chipman interview from a couple days ago and everything that John and Darren Millard have cooking at 100% Hockey. Have a great evening. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll catch up soon.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. There's John Shannon at JShannon NHL over on X as well. All right, listen, all day long we've been talking about today's big announcement from the Canadian Football League. And let's get to our fan feedback, because we had a number of questions cranking out. And of course, we do fan feedback for fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is exactly what you pay and nothing more at Fans First, and certainly the best place to sell an extra pair if you had them. We asked, do you like the new modified Rouge rule? Yes, was 44, no more cheap singles. 34% said no, Rouge is part of the CFL tradition. 22% was neutral. It doesn't matter to me. The fan feedback we had on the first question and just thoughts on the overall changes was about as even a poll as we've ever had. 4 different options, and they all came in at about 25%. So I think people are still sort of just wrapping their heads about all of this. Now, we won't be seeing these new rules on Saturday at Princess Auto Stadium. We will, however, be hearing our next guest who finally gets back to Winnipeg. But of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their home, Princess Auto Stadium. Of course, Princess Auto is founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. And we'll see all you Bomber fans to pack Princess Auto Stadium again this weekend when the Ticats come to town. Hey, Donnie and our friends at Manitoba Battery are ready for the change of seasons. Listen, they powered great summers with batteries for campers and boats and ATVs. Now it's time to get ready for winter. And as Donnie always says, wake up, Winnipeg. Stop overpaying for batteries at the big box stores when you can shop local, save a ton of money, get the best prices in town, and the best service as well from Manitoba Battery. With 2 locations now, Logan Avenue and Dover Court Drive, with the lowest prices on batteries, period. And They'll also deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. So for all your battery needs, go to manitobabattery.com, order online, give them a holler, or pop by and see them for the best deals on batteries in store, Logan Avenue and Dovercourt Drive at Manitoba Battery. And hey, folks, if you are looking into your closet, guys, and need to up your menswear game heading into the new season, get on down to F Apparel, Winnipeg's #1 spot for custom men's clothing. Custom suits starting at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. You can pop by and see them at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online at that's EPHapparel.com. And if you are getting married or at a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for the boys when they get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. All right, as I mentioned, our next guest, who is live from a Boston Pizza right now, will be live from Princess Auto Stadium with the call on the weekend, finally getting the big fella back to the peg. It's Dustin Nielson, my tag team partner in the lock shop and the godfather of Edmonton Sports Talk. What's up?
I have called ahead. I told the Elephant and Castle to bring in extra tendies this weekend because I'm coming in hot, my man. I can't wait.
Are you going to be bringing a cooler so you can grab a few extra orders and bring them back? The Nielsen Sunday night meal will be E&C chicken tenders from Winnipeg.
Dwayne Ford has done that on the road in different markets. He will bring stuff to keep pizzas at the temperature he needs them and take them back on the plane with him, or various types of meat. So I wouldn't be the first one to do it, but no, I haven't been there in 2 months. So I'm actually pretty excited to get back to Princess Auto, buddy. It should be good.
Well, listen, before we talk about the Bombers and this upcoming game, the very interesting win on the weekend in Ottawa, let's talk about the big news today. You and I were live on the Lock Shop reacting, but appreciate you jumping on here now that we've had a little bit more time to settle it in. 35-second clock, modified rouge, 100-yard field, uprights moving to the back of now 15-yard end zones. They weren't joking when they said that these were going to be significant changes. Just now that we're a couple hours out from the original announcement, where's your head at on all of this?
Yeah, you know what, man? I think the reaction we're seeing is kind of what I thought we would see with these. I was kind of brought in the loop about all of it over the weekend, and it was actually a good decision. Like, I chatted with Stu yesterday. He called me. He goes, hey, I just chatted with a few people he goes, I want you to have 24 hours to think about what I'm going to tell you, so that by the time you start talking about it, and it was good because I think you need some time. Like, when he first told me that they were going to a 100-yard field, I was like, oh man. But now that I've thought about it more, and I'm totally on board with the goalpost being moved back. And if you're going to do that, you have to shorten the field. I think you have to take 10 yards out if you're going to be hoping that teams, and he said it today, he said he thinks they're going to have 60 more touchdowns because of this move. I think he's probably getting a little overzealous on that front, but I think if you were to move the goalpost back and didn't take out the 10 yards in the middle field, it would just be a punt fest. Now teams are going to start a little bit close to the other team's end zone, which should help them get down a little bit more and get into a field goal range, which will have to be, you're looking at probably the 35 would be the edge of field goal range now, because that would still be a 57-yarder for a lot of guys. So there's a few guys in the league that wouldn't even try that. So I think if you are a fan of the uprights being moved to the back and the shortening of the end zone, I don't think you can have it both ways. Like, I think you have to live with the 100-yard field to make that work. And then the other stuff, like the 35-second play clock, the only thing I was concerned about that is how it changes the final 3 minutes. But one of my producers at TSN on Twitter a little while ago confirmed that it's not going to change that. Like, the play clock, the time clock will still stop. So we still should have that very exciting final 3 minutes. The sideline thing should have never been a thing. There's no way there should be two teams on the same sideline at a game. It's just one of those things.
I'll be honest, I never even pay attention or notice that. Here in Winnipeg, they're on the opposite sides. That's just what it is.
Vancouver has it. I think Toronto has it. I'm trying to think of Montreal. Montreal might have it. So yeah, there's like, 2 or 3 teams in the league that have teams on the same sidelines. And to me, that doesn't make sense. So that was an easy one for them to switch up. The Rouge thing is very interesting. But with the sideline, with the uprights being moved to the back, you're not even going to have a situation where a guy could attempt to get it out of the end zone on a missed field goal. So how are you going to award a single for that? So, the one thing that's really going to suck from all this is one of the parts of the game that I really like, and that is the missed field goal return. The missed field goal return is basically dead. Like, that's the one thing.
We love it here in Winnipeg, too.
Yeah, of course you guys do. But that's the one thing that has officially been sacrificed today, the missed field goal return. Now, the return game is still going to be awesome, obviously, with punts and kicks. But I will miss the missed field goal return because the missed field goal is always more likely to have somebody take it back. It's a completely different unit out there. So that part makes me a little bit sad as a play-by-play guy. But overall, his end goal is to make this game even more exciting. And I love the league. I wouldn't change anything. But, the uprights blocking part of your end zone is gimmicky. It's been a part of our game for a long time, but it does make more sense to open up the middle part of your end zone. Like, it really does.
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest. I'd never really spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's just always been the way that it was. And as I mentioned, we have the very fond memory of our 13th defender blocking down Cody Fajardo's pass in the West Final a few years ago, which, of course, they did show during the video. But when it was described as to how that affects the game and what the result of this should be, I can't say that I disagree. This will be very pro offense to be able to use that area. And, I think it should increase scoring. And
that's what he said, right? Right now, the majority of touchdown passes, like the heavy majority of touchdown passes, are to the edges. And it's not because quarterbacks are too scared to attack the middle of the defense. It's because there's this block in the way, right? It's so I'm interested to see actually how this changes teams when they get inside the 15. I mean, can they do a little bit more without having even balls thrown in that direction are extremely lower than on the edges. And that's not just it's just that's how it works. No, it's because there is literally an obstacle in the way. It's more difficult to get the ball there. So that one, I'm totally like the 100. I would have preferred the field to stay 110, but I do think it goes hand in hand with the uprights moving back. So, I mean, let's see how it goes. I do think pretty ballsy of a new commish 5.5 months in to not come in and just like dabble in things, but significantly change them. But he's a pretty smart dude. He wouldn't just do this by the seat of his pants. Has full support from all the key stakeholders in the league, I think. And we'll see where it goes, man. It's going to be a little weird, though. It's going to be a little different.
Yeah, I think it is important to note, as you just kind of referred to, that, enthusiastic, unanimous endorsement from all the governors in the Canadian Football League. And listen, obviously some fans are going to be on all over the place on this with new. I mean, I see Clark Petrick. Thanks for the super chat, Clark. Clark, not on board, says, I am turning in my season tickets. I hope that you may reconsider because if you've been going to Bomber games for a long time, if anything, I mean, they're not trying to kill the game. They are trying to make it better. And I will, I guess, give them the benefit of the doubt on that right now. I mean, for my opinion, as we talked about this on the Lock Shop, there's not really, for me personally, I mean, none of this is a hill to die on for me. If they had talked about going to 4 downs, that would have been a bit of a deal breaker.
I mean, that's not going to. Yeah,
I want Canadians in the league. I like the wider field. I like the 12 players, and all of that will still be the same. And listen, I can kind of get behind the intention of all of this. And if it does what they hope and believe it will do, I have a hard time arguing that I think this might not make the CFL games better. And again, that is what they're trying to do, Dusty, with this. I mean, there's nothing sinister here.
No, to me, the longer field was Canadian. I get it. But, chatting with people over the last, like this morning on my show, we had Marshall Ferguson on, we had Steinberg on, who writes CFL.ca. And I asked them, I said, what's one thing you would change? And they mostly talked about kind of what we talked about in Lock Shop in the old go 1 through 9, do the playoffs that way. But they both said, when I said, and what's one untouchable thing? And both of them immediately, 3 downs. Like when you hear Canadian football anywhere else, nobody goes, oh, those are the, like, let's just say you're talking to an NFL fan. You say, yeah, I watch Canadian Football League. First thing they're going to say is, oh, that's a 3-down league, right? They're not going to say, oh, that's the one where the uprights are at. A lot of them don't even know where they are, but they know it's a 3-down league with a wider field, and it's still a 3-down league, has a wider field, still has a Canadian ratio, still has the same amount of players. It was described by Stu as the Canadian game is staying the same, but is be playing on a little bit of a different canvas. And I mean, I don't think that should be enough to chase people. If you do, look, if you don't want to watch the game anymore, that's fine. That's your opinion. I'm not telling you to stop that, but I don't think it's such drastic moves that people are going to be like, nope, I'm going to turn this off now. I think it's going to be, if they want to sell it as more entertaining, good on them. If it ends up being more entertaining, then that's incredible because the league's already highly entertaining 80% of the time.
Was the 20% on the other side of things the game that you called between the Bombers and the Ottawa Redblacks on Saturday? That was something.
I mean, I didn't have a doozy in Toronto the night before either. At least that one was close at the end, so it made it somewhat interesting. But yeah, I kept saying, I said to John Proberg, our ace stat guy who was with us, I said, we got to look up, like, has a team in the modern era won a game with one completion? Because midway through the third quarter, there's one completion. I said this, and they're in front by 11.
Quarter.
Yeah. And then they had Kokorin got the 21-yard pass, and then the little flip ahead to Mitchell, which basically cheating. I thought they were going to do that with Dembski to extend the streak, but they didn't. That was bizarre. I don't think I hope to have like 20 years left calling CFL games. I'm not sure I'll ever call another game where a quarterback completes 3 passes and wins the game. I don't know if I'll ever do that again, which I guess makes it memorable. But at the same time, I was like, God, like he only attempted 8 passes. And it's a good example of, different elements of the game can win you the game. Missed field goal return, obviously big. Couple of interceptions, which, like, I know Drew Brown threw for 400 yards, but that was one of the least impressive 400-yard games I've ever seen. Both interceptions were well overthrown of the targets, and Cam Allen was just standing in the right place in behind him. So, yeah, it wasn't a good football game, buddy, but Bombers find a way to get it done. And Vavel's a stud. Punt return touchdown, kick return touchdown, field goal return touchdown. He's fun to watch.
Well, I will maintain that if the Bombers can pick themselves up off the mat, get Zach Caleros back, and make any noise whatsoever in the rest of this season, the Lewis Ward missed field goal will be the TSN turning point of the entire year. Because I'm telling you right now, if he makes that field goal,
they go up 10-0,
and the Bombers are down 10-0, it's game over. Game over.
You might be right, buddy. You might be right. Hey. That was a huge turning point. Huge. And yeah, I mean, as far as how this season's gone, that's not a crazy bold statement to make.
As far as the Strevler performance went, I mean, my read of it was, they went out and they sort of had their game plan and get a couple incompletions, and then he threw that pick. And I kind of think they went back and basically just said, okay, like we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Like
literally they put the cuffs on him as far as throwing the football. And said, there'll only be, a couple plays called and we're going to run the hell out of this thing. And like I said on Twitter, there's no apologies needed from the Bombers. That was their roster. That was who they were going out with. They didn't have their starting quarterback. And I know there's tons of conversation about, well, why didn't you put Terry Wilson in to see what he can do? They thought that they could win a football game, running the football, playing good defense, taking advantage of that big play on special teams, and they did it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that this is the recipe to continue rolling game after game. But, I mean, I know it's cliche, and they always talk about, well, we got to go 1-0. They had to go 1-0 this week with what BC did, with everything happening around the league, and they got that job done. So they don't need to apologize to anyone, but they do need to figure it out moving forward, because as I say, this is not a model that you can consistently win in week after week in the CFL.
Remember the time that the Bombers ran the table in 7 games in a row, throwing the ball less than 10 times? Like, that's not going to be the conversation. I would say this about Strevler, though, and I think you do make a fair point after the interceptions, like, simplify this a lot. But I also thought there was a few times where, like, he panicked too soon. Like, the pocket, there's, like, some pressure, but the pocket wasn't collapsing. And he was like, first read, I'm out of here. Lapple brought it up. There was the one play. There was some pressure coming, but he had a guy wide open down the left side of the field. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. And he just, if he waits like a split second more and sees that, touchdown, not even close. Instead, as soon as the pressure comes, so I think he just sort of had happy feet. And, you know, when you are good with your feet, maybe that happens a little bit more. But we've seen better passing games from Chris Strevler than the one that we saw last week.
Yeah, well, as they say, I don't think that they were even considering very many passes after that first one got picked off. And listen, you know, we'll hear some of Mike O'Shea post-game. Hammer was there and asked some pretty pointed questions, which we will get to. But, I mean, if they don't believe that Terry Wilson is a viable option to get into a game,
they clearly don't, right?
They clearly don't. Which to me says, I think two things need to happen. A, they got to pray that Zach Collaros can get back on the football field. But I also think that the Bombers would be smart to make a Zach Collaros type pickup at the trade deadline coming up in a couple weeks.
I know who you're going to say.
I mean, I'm not sure the Elks are going to throw up the white flag as of yet.
Well, I don't think they should. I think he should be their starter next year. You know, I think Cody Fajardo is a guy that you can build a culture around with what he's accomplished in the league. So, I mean, it's not a crazy idea. I was talking earlier in the year about it, you know, like 4 weeks in when it was still sort of Trey's team, that, you know, at some point along the way, Cody Fajardo has a couple good games. Maybe a team like Winnipeg would trade for him. But I don't know, man. I think Cody's kind of I think Killam wants to have Cody around for a while. So that's probably off the radar. I mean, Zach was practicing multiple times last week, right?
Well, he was running around. He played safety on the scout team. I mean, he's going to be there.
I hope he gets back just for him.
Like, well, I mean, 100%. But the bottom line is, if he's not in the game, it doesn't seem like the Bombers have really any options right now, or it certainly hasn't been. By the way,
just play Ottawa all the time, I guess.
Well, yeah, I'm just checking the schedule, and that's not going to cut it.
You know what? I got to say this about Ottawa too. I would have stuck with Dustin Crum going into that game. I know your season's pretty much on the line, and Drew Brown's your guy, but Drew Brown was 2-5 so far this year. Dustin Crum in his last game was 30 of 35, over 300 yards, 65 yards on the ground, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and I think comes with a little bit more grit than Drew has. It's tough because, you know, Bob Dice is sitting there being like, God, we need this win, and Drew Brown's our guy. But I would have stuck with Dustin Crum going into that game, man.
You know,
plus Crum has caused issues for the Bombers in the past, like history alone.
Oh yeah, I mean the original Crumback was against the
and the near Crumback recently.
Bombers. So definitely one of the more bizarre games you'll ever see. A quarterback that passes for 400 yards loses to a guy that passed for 54 and completed 3 downs, but. That's why it's a team game, and there's all these other aspects that work it. You know, just speaking about with the Bombers, what could they find out there on the quarterback market? That got complicated as well in a big way on the weekend with what happened with the Calgary Stampeders. First of all, just thoughts on Nathan Rourke and what he's doing right now for the BC Lions. Them thumping Calgary, you know, on the road. VA leaving, PJ Walker out for the year right now. It's been kind of a crazy 10 days in the West with Saskatchewan getting smashed at home by Montreal, and then Calgary getting their season turned upside down by BC and the 2 injuries to their top 2 quarterbacks.
I think even the Elks might be a bit of a live dog against the Riders this week. Like let's see where we talked about this on our show this morning, and it's funny. I went on Jay Onright's show to do like some hot takes from the West, like right before he shut down for the summer. And my number one hot take was Nathan Rourke's going to be the MOP. And then Bogut's doing what he's doing, and Arbuckle's having his season. And I'm like, and it might backfire on me, but I'm not sure it does, man. If you can get a good number on Nathan Rourke, be the MOP right now, I would. He is third in the league in passing yards, missed a couple of games. He is third in the league in passing touchdowns. He's 8th in the league in rushing yards, and he's 4th in the league in rushing touchdowns. Like, this guy is top 10 in all of the significant categories that he could possibly be top 10 in. And if they finish strong down the stretch, I don't think it's crazy to think that they could end up with a home playoff date with what's happened with Calgary recently. If the BC Lions defense is remotely adequate, I think Nathan Rourke makes them a legitimate contender. So I would sprinkle Rourke to win the MOP right now for sure. And then the Calgary situation is interesting. Like, we've seen VA over the years kind of have some ups and downs, and this is a good VA, and this is the bad VA. But VA's dealing with some injuries. He took a pop in that game. Then obviously they lose PJ Walker. And Calgary, the last 2 weeks, they got ran all over by Justin Rankin, absolutely torched by Rankin. And that was without Jalen Hutchins. And now they've lost to Rimolade for the entire season. And look, they've got like Jacob Roberts in the linebacking group, awesome player. They've got some pretty good surprises in the secondary. But the strength of the Calgary Stampeders all year long has been their front four on defense. And the last 2 games, that front four hasn't been together, and they've both been pretty much absolute disasters. So I worry a lot about a group that had, like, they get the most pressure in the league and blitz the fewest, which is insane. And if you get that taken away from you, I think it changes your team significantly. So I'd be a little bit worried about Calgary right now, and I think Rourke is as live as they come, man. He's outstanding.
Yeah, I'm sitting on an 11-1 ticket from, I think it was maybe around week 5 or so for Rourke. I mean, he opened up, I think, as the favorite. Then with the start that BC had, it drifted. So, feeling pretty good about that one. Riders still the slight favorites to win over the Tiger Cats. But, I mean, with where BC's at right now, what Calgary's done so far, I mean, I think most people still sort of writing off Winnipeg, but they did go from 20-1 last week to 15-1 to win.
I'd still say a healthy Davis Alexander probably makes Montreal the favorite in the East to me. Nothing against Bowen, what the Ticats have done, and they've got Greg Bell going a lot recently, which I think changes their game a little bit. And I like some of the pieces they have defensively. But first of all, Davis Alexander still hasn't lost, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. If he's healthy, and we chatted with Jason Moss on the sideline before the game on Friday night, and Moss was just like, he was non-committal, but he said, he's getting closer. But it's this whole discussion now between how does he feel? Like, he feels like he's closer, but the doctor's original timeline was this. But Montreal's defense is playing great. They've got awesome weapons. If they can, they've beaten the Riders and the Stamps with MBT at quarterback. So if they can get Davis Alexander back, man, I still think Montreal is a handful in the East.
Dustin Nielson's with us. You can check out the two of us every day, Monday to Friday at noon, before Winnipeg Sports Talk over at EST, doing the lock shop. Just for our Winnipeg listeners, Dusty, on the way out, quick hockey question. Where is the EST panic meter right now as it pertains to one Connor McDavid? How are people feeling right now? Is it a daily topic on the program? Are these bar conversations all surrounding the future of the superstar?
Well, I'm at a bar right now. Hey, are you guys talking about McDavid resigning or not? I just said. He said, no, that's all we talk about. So I'm at a pub right now. There's 2 guys sitting right in front of me talking. I think we're in like this weird sort of like the eye of the storm right now, if you know what I mean. Like, we're past the panic because I think a lot of people are sort of expecting that, he's not going to sign before the season starts. So, like, at this point, if we get an email 2 days from now saying like, "Oh, Connor McDavid press conference with Connor McDavid," I'll be pretty surprised. So yeah, it's kind of like in this weird holding pattern here right now, and we'll see how much longer it lasts. Like, the only thing that keeps, there's a couple of, he's done some interviews, he's done some availabilities, and a couple of times in the one with Friedman there and Bukauskas, he said, he really believes in their 25-26 team. And I was like, that doesn't sound like, a ton of faith in the franchise moving forward. And then anytime he says, I've worked my entire life for this opportunity, all I can think is, you don't work your entire life for the opportunity to sign for 2 or 3 years. Like, you work your whole life to have the opportunity to become the biggest unrestricted free agent in the sports history. Like, that's That's monumental level stuff. So we'll see. I saw Friedman say on 32 Thoughts that if McDavid stays in Edmonton, it could be at a lower number than many of us are thinking. And that would maybe him being like, let's take it for 2 more years here, plus the year he's got right now. Take a bit of a hit to help the team a bit right now. And then if you can't deliver a cup in 3 years, it's all the money in the world and you're out of here. So, but it's this weird sort of lull right now, which is kind of unsettling, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's very different around here. It seems to be positive with Kyle Connor.
That's what I heard. I heard some people being like, they think Connor's going to stick around and get something done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Chevy speaking at training camp last week said, we're at the point where every conversation, you hope it's the one that pushes it over the finish line. So, I mean, I think people are pretty optimistic about that. But again, with all due respect to Kyle Connor, there's only one Connor McDavid right now, and the entire National Hockey League looking very closely as to what's happening in Edmonton. Has that just been the entire buzz around training camp, basically the McDavid situation? Like, is anyone even talking about the actual team and the upcoming 82 games?
The problem is that the team's kind of set. They got a couple of young guys, Matt Savoy and Ike Howard. Savoy's going to make the team for sure, 100%. He looks like he's ready to go. Howard's going to be interesting. I think he's probably going to be on the starting roster because they went out and got him. They're looking to inject some youth in the lineup. He's supposed to have some offensive abilities. But outside of that, I mean, it's basically Wallman going to play with Nurse, but play on the right side, and that's probably the case. Outside of that, man, the roster's pretty much set. There's some versatility in the group, so you can move some guys around if they're going to play center or wing. But it's not like there's 3 or 4 jobs that are up for grabs right now. So a lot of people are going to talk about the Connor McDavid situation. Yes.
Well, at least they're not complaining about the goaltending. I mean, you can
for now. Let's play a regular season game first, us.
Dude, thanks for doing this. A lot of fun today reacting live to that event on the Lock Shop. We didn't even get to discuss some of the worst beats in recent NFL gambling history. Tomorrow on the program, we will get to all of that, as well as I think, 24 hours later, a little bit more on the feedback and the reaction to Stuart Johnson's announcement today. Great stuff, and we will look forward to seeing you in the Peg for the first time in a long time this weekend for Bombers Ticats.
Sounds good, buddy. See you later.
Take it easy. Dustin Nielson Show every morning on Edmonton Sports Talk, and then again, noon our time, Monday to Friday, Dusty and I. Lots of fun hitting some lines and talking about the big stories in sports before we fire it up on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Dusty, of course, just joined us live from Boston Pizza in Edmonton. Your local Boston Pizza tonight is the place to be for a big Monday nighter between the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. There's no better place to get together with your gang for the big game than your local BP. And listen, the BP lounges right now are going to be busy because, of course, the Blue Jays push to the playoffs continues. Nightly, tonight it's Monday Night Football, and again, for NFL all season long, Boston Pizza is your home of the NFL with the game on the big screens with sound, ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and your chance to win great prizes, including spinning the BP prize wheel and some authentic NFL jerseys as well, given away at local BPs throughout the season. It's Monday Night Football. Head on down to your local BP and get ready for Ravens, Lions, and of course, Thursday Night Football, Sunday night, and Jets season just around the corner as well. It's always a great time to get together with the gang at Boston Pizza, and if you're staying at home, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Was one more big tent sale on the weekend at Royal Sports. And now it's time to drop the puck on hockey season. If you're getting back onto the ice right now, you know that Royal Sports has been the hockey superstore in town for over 50 years with everything you need from pucks and stick tape to full equipment, goalie gear, sticks, skates, and more, with hockey players working in the department to make sure you get the right fit and the best choice for the hockey player in your family. While you're there, grab yourself a Jonathan Taves jersey, Jet gear coming in for the upcoming season. Of course, all the new NFL merch, CFL for the Bombers playoff drive, and more. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We are going to get back to that weird and wild Bomber game on Saturday in just a minute. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get Remo back in here. And Remo, I do want to hear from Mike O'Shea in a moment, but we sort of dove in right off the bat to the breaking news of the announcements of the changes coming to the Canadian Football League. We probably normally would have talked about one of the more bizarre wins in recent CFL and Blue Bomber history on the weekend. What did you take away from the Bombers' big win in Ottawa on Saturday?
Well, they got to win. I think that if they're going to continue to have that type of offense moving forward, wins are going to be hard to come by. I think at this point they're just trying to, wait for Zach Collaros to come back, and you hope he can come back this week, or as you said, make a Zach Collaros type trade for another quarterback. But you can't keep playing like that and expecting to win. We did say on the Saturday show, or even leading up, that they're going to need help from the defense and from the special teams. And over the last 3 games, those guys have stepped up. Trevor Val, that's what they needed, that field goal return touchdown. The interceptions, the fumble on, they got their own turnover at the end of the first half instead of giving one up like they had been the last couple of games. So everything they needed to do to win went their way. Lewis Ward, missed field goals. Sergio Castillo hit all of his. It was that's how they needed to win. But that's not going to happen every game. Completing one pass before the third quarter. I think I tweeted after 3. They have 11 yards passing. Ottawa had 256, but they were leading the game 17-11. That's not going to happen again. So they won. High five, move on, but you can't keep doing. I don't think they could keep winning playing that type of football. And I was listening to the Bomber Report with Schnitzy and Connor, and Zach pointed out, the number of 2-and-outs that the Bombers had was 70% of their drives were 2-and-out. I got to find the exact number. I think 9 of the 12 drives. You're not going to win doing that. So they got to, find a way to stay on the field, keep the offense going. Completing three passes.
Well, and again, one of them was basically a run, and there was the second completion of the game was to Joey Corcoran, which was actually a nice play, a much needed one at the time.
We also haven't mentioned the end of Nick Dembski's consecutive catch streak,
that was an unfortunate casualty of Saturday's air show, or lack thereof.
Yeah, that was didn't need to happen. They could have figured it. They did get him a ball. It was a penalty. And also, Carrick Wheatfall. Not only were they not completing passes, but that was a hospital ball thrown to Carrick Wheatfall. He was put in a really bad spot. And that may have been, Paul Apolli said, that was the biggest hit he's seen all year. I agree. It was like Bufflin on Mark Stone level, that hit. And I don't know what his status is, but it didn't look good.
I agree. There are very few collisions and hits you can actually compare to Bufflin on Mark Stone. That was one of them. Just absolutely hellacious, and you hope that Carrick Wheatfall will be able to be a part of the squad as they continue to try to lock down a playoff spot. Now it's 7-7. I'm just looking on my Twitter feed. And yes, going into the fourth quarter, I tweeted out, this is one of the more absurd CFL games you will see. We are about to begin the fourth quarter, and the QB with a 6-point lead has completed 1 pass for 11 yards. But again, I know there's a lot of people that really want to focus on that. I'll focus on what the job at hand was, and that was to win a football game. They had to have it, and they got it. And there's a lot of guys that stepped up to help them do exactly that. Now, do I want to see an offense this weekend at home that completes only 3 passes. Definitely not. But I do appreciate, I mean, football is a team game. And listen, they didn't have their number one QB. They had significant and serious challenges at the quarterback position. And everybody else stepped up to help them deliver a victory. And they took advantage of some good fortune as well. I mean, like I said with Dusty earlier, Reem, if Lewis Ward makes that field goal, and let's not forget, Ottawa got the ball and just went down with ease and put their first drive in for a touchdown, 85 yards, 7 plays. I mean, what the defense was able to do after that was phenomenal. But I still don't think, like, if Lewis Ward hits that field goal that ended up being returned by Trey Vavel to tie the game, if that one goes through and it's 10-0, it's very, very difficult to imagine a scenario where the Bombers, without any passing offense, would have been able to come back and win that football game. So once again, Trey Vavel saves the day. He's done this on a couple of occasions, really 2 Streveler wins as a starter. That game in Ottawa and the home game in Toronto were games that you could argue were really won by massive special teams plays by Trey Vavel. And he's had one hell of a season. We spent a lot of time talking about Peyton Logan and who was going to come in. Well, it's Vavel's been the guy, and he's made some huge, huge plays all season long. Let's hear what Mike O'Shea had to say from Saturday. Here's the coach of the Bombers discussing a big, big win for his team in the nation's capital.
It's maybe not style points, but you get the victory, and here you guys cheering in 7-7 back in the playoff race.
Well, I don't know that we ever thought we were out of it, so I don't know if we're getting back in, but I mean, it's a grinder, and our guys grinded, and right to the end, and when it mattered most, we were able to run the ball. I mean, I think we're going to let the guys enjoy this one.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
absolutely.
Especially after having a couple of weeks where you're involved with losses.
We're past that. We were past that when we were preparing for Ottawa, but it feels good. They feel good. I mean, it was a great spark by Trey, and then it just sort of took off. We took the ball away a few more times. The offense moved it. We kicked some field goals. Whatever. It's all good.
All right, so there's Mike O'Shea, and Reem, I had to laugh pulling a page out of the Paul Maurice post-game conference handbook. That was a grinder. We always remember Maurice calling some very iffy or lackluster Jet games and wins grinders, and I'm not sure there's a better usage of the term in recent Bomber history than Saturday afternoon.
That was certainly a grinder. I mean, 31 carries combined, Oliveira and Streveler. I was surprised that Ottawa only had 4 sacks because Streveler, he'd drop back, he'd win throw, he'd hold on to the ball, and he'd try to run for it, and he doesn't have the quickness that he had.
Better a sack than a pick.
And Tony, I know he took. We were talking in the Discord. He took the goal of the game to protect the ball, quite literally, and he did throw the 1 interception. But the Bombers won the turnover battle. They did everything they needed to do to win that game, and it's funny to watching it, thinking that. I was saying the Ottawa needs to put in Dustin Crum, and that was the quarterback. The one with all the passing yards should have been the one to be replaced instead of the one that had no passing yards. It was a bizarro game, but the one stat that mattered was the win or the points, and the Bombers came out ahead. And when on Friday, when BC looked unstoppable against Calgary and passed them in the standings, they needed to keep pace. And there they are, 7-7. Now they've played one more game than Calgary. Calgary's at 8-5, but they've got quarterback issues now. I'm not sure what Vern Adams' status is, and PJ Walker left with injury. Bombers defense
PJ's out for the season.
Oh, he's done.
And he's out for the season, and VA is in concussion protocol, from what I understand. So, I mean, depending on the health of Vernon Adams, they could be down to their third option. Let's just hear a little bit more from Osha after the game. Listen, Trey Vaval, we just mentioned, saving the day once again. Here's Osha on the special teams and Vaval's massive play to flip the game.
And our cover teams stripping the ball and getting one back too, right? So it adds up. We won the turnover battle. I don't know what the numbers were, but I'm sure we won the turnover battle, and it makes a huge difference. Score on special teams makes a huge difference. Defense taking the ball away at a higher clip. It's awesome. Us taking care of the football in offense, it adds up.
Yeah, that game was all about the turnover battle. And, once Strevler gave one away, he didn't really get the opportunity to give any others away. You mentioned protecting the football, sometimes taking some sacks. But when your defense is playing the way the Bombers was and their special teams was being taking advantage of opportunities that were given to them and forcing some big plays, you can win a football game. Can you do that consistently? Probably not. But they needed to get it done on Saturday, and they did. But, I mean, again, it's still hard to get over the fact that the Bombers did absolutely nothing through the air. Hammer asked O'Shea just about the lack of production in the air through the offense.
But it's hard not to look at 8 passing attempts. Is that the flow of the game? Did you know you were going to be going to the ground? Like, Chris had 1 completion in the first half.
Yeah, if you tell me those numbers, I didn't. I'm not paying attention to them. I'm not paying attention to them. I mean, we're grinding. It's going to be one of those games.
You didn't know you had 1?
It was going to be one of those games. Right?
So in those games, I mean, I'm wondering, you talked about Chris starting. Obviously, he's putting his body on line. He did just that. I think he had 82 or whatever rushing yards. How did you assess the offense or the game of the offense?
We won. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's what the film's for. That's what the day after's for. Clean some things up and move forward.
Hey, it was no Picasso, but they got the job done. And once again, he went back to the grinder line. I mean, this is the grinder game of the Mike O'Shea era, Reem.
Yeah, look, he's not paying attention to fancy stats like passing yards and completions. He cares about one stat, wins, and they won. And that's all that matters. And it leads me to, some of his comments. Look, we knew it was going to be that type of game. I think they told Strevler, like, hey, if you don't see, just eat it or just try to run. I mean, I'm curious how many times you got tackled, like at the 1 or something, trying to escape after pressure and not throwing. Like, it seemed like you go back there and they showed in the broadcast, he had like 4 guys open and just ate it. So, very strange game. Again, they did what they needed to do. They didn't turn the ball over. The defense stepped up. Special teams touchdown. It was pretty wild. I feel bad for Ottawa. I mean, 406 passing yards for Drew Brown, but as the 2 interceptions sunk him, the missed field goals, as you said, with that first one, like Ottawa marched down the field, no problem, and put a touchdown up. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a long game. This is not going to go well. And after that missed field goal, you thought, okay, maybe he's got a chance because return touchdowns do happen often on those missed field goals. We saw it happen to the Bombers earlier this year against Ottawa. And took it back all the way. And you're like, all right, back in this thing.
Game on.
Game on. So credit to the defense. We didn't mention Willie Jefferson batting down balls. And, I mean, Drew Brown took it, that 17-yard sack was huge. I mean, take him out of field goal range.
How did he not get rid of the football on that play? That was terrible.
Yeah.
He had so much time to do it. And then basically lost 20 yards. Listen, the special teams was outstanding. So was the defense. This was, I thought Reddick Cranby was a monster. Tony Jones was everywhere. You mentioned Willie Jefferson. Here's what Coach O'Shea had to say about the performance of his defense.
Yeah, they did a great job. They stood on their head. I thought JY did a great job too. They come out, they do a couple little different things, and it just took a little second to adjust, and then they started clicking. So it was pretty cool to see that, see the way the defense worked and worked to find their groove.
What can the win? I mean, you guys won lots, but what can this win do? Just to, you always say it. Guys say you always say it's better to look at tape after a win than a loss. So,
well, I mean, it does nothing for us if we don't go back to work, right? I don't think one loss or one win or whatever it was we did the week before isn't really going to matter to us. It's about how they show up the next day, prepared to learn and prepared to move forward, and how prepared they are to give more, because it's that time of year.
All right, well, it is that time of year. Every play, every drive, every game counts, and the Bombers got the one that they absolutely had to have. It's still in third place in the West on account of the tiebreaker over the BC Lions, both at 7-7. Remo will say this, though. BC looked scary good on the weekend. That's a game that could, really completely flip Calgary's season on its side, depending on what happens with their quarterbacks. But it looked for a long time like it was Sask and Calgary that were just going to run away with the West. And both of those teams have had pretty big hiccups over the past 10 days.
Man, BC has looked scary the last 2 weeks, scoring with their first couple of drives, just blowing Ottawa out at home and going into Calgary. Calgary's, they're one of the top teams in the West, and they're getting booed off the field. Nathan Rourke is back to his pre-leaving for the NFL level. I agree with Dusty, MOP candidate, the number of 300-yard games he's had. He's certainly up there if this play continues. 331 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. It was awesome to watch. They got great receivers in Hatcher and McInnes. The defense has been a problem, allowing too many points. So we'll see. But they could outscore anyone. But he hasn't won against the Bombers, Nathan Rourke. That's one thing. That's for sure.
Kryptonite.
Yeah, hasn't won against the Bombers for whatever reason. But he's looked good.
We'll have a big episode of CFL 110 tomorrow. And we're going to have to change the name of CFL 110 too, based on what we heard today from Stuart Johnson.
We can keep it for legacy reasons.
Yeah, maybe that just shows we're old school CFLers.
We're original.
When people ask us, why is it called CFL 110? Well, when we started the show, the field had 110 yards.
You can still do that. It's like wearing a vintage jersey.
Anyways, tomorrow we'll have CFL 110 for you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Very looking forward to Hammer and his reaction to everything that was announced today by CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson. Gang, we'll get to the Coolbet lines in a minute, but I do want to remind you, Wednesday, we are back with the WST Wednesday Night Poker Series. We've got dates selected on non-Jet game nights, and the Jets don't play very often on Wednesday, so Wednesday's going to be the night, 8 p.m. Hope you will join us. Head on over to Coolbet and just click on poker. What you're going to want to do is download the poker app and then go into tournaments and just put in WST. It'll pop up. Lock it in. We will also do a draw for a pair of tickets for the Bombers for everybody that enters the tourney. And again, you can see it right there. It's a $30 buy-in, and 8 p.m. it starts. Hopefully all the regulars from our previous tourneys will be back, and if you haven't played before, come and join us. Heck of a lot of fun. And of course, we will have bounties on my head and Remis's head, $100 if you take us out as a bonus as well. I can't wait to get going with the tourney on Wednesday now that we've kind of gone through a bit of a summer slowdown.
Yeah, it's getting, all the summer activities are kind of winding down. The weather's getting cooler. It's getting darker earlier. So what a great time to spend an evening. And then at the tables, the poker tables at Coolbet, looking forward to getting back at it as took a bit of a break, but nice bonus too. What, bounties? Are the bounties still in?
Yep, the bounties are still in. So people will be chasing us down, trying to take us out. So yeah, join us. I believe it's live right now. So if you want to go in and enter, we'll throw up a link in the chat over the next couple days. You can lock yourself in. But 8 p.m. on Wednesday night, plan to join us. Tell your friends. And again, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, when you go into the sports book, you can use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit over at Coolbet. We'll touch on NFL in a minute, but the Jays finally won yesterday, Reem. And that, I think, sort of calmed people down a little bit. It had not been a great run. They lost 4 in a row. Vlad had been really cold. We got to see Trey Savage with his second start. He gets the win yesterday over the Royals. Off today, and now back home for the Red Sox and Rays. 6 games remaining to lock down the AL East and one of the top 2 spots and avoid a wild card matchup and move right on to the divisional series.
Wow, off day today. So no post-champagne party lineup. Us, they're in the locker room yesterday, spraying the champagne. Usually they have the hangover lineup where like no one plays, but lucky for them, they got the off day.
They can't afford that right now because they gotta make sure that they stay ahead of the Yankees.
Yeah, they are 90-66. The Yankees 2 games back, so they got to hang on to the East, winning the division. Pretty important. What a crazy season it's been. The expectations for the Blue Jays were pretty low, I think, like not even making the playoffs, and to win the American League ahead of the Yankees. What did Buck Martinez call them? The bad baseball team?
Yes.
They're only good at hitting home runs. Beating them and everyone else. Incredible accomplishment. So shout out to the Jays because we were not high on them coming into the year.
Yeah, we'll get to the lines in a big Monday nighter in just a minute. Tomorrow, Remo and I will be back with our picks for Assiniboia Downs. Normally, the track would be finished right now, and this is great because we've got some beautiful weather for the next couple weeks. But we've got 3 more weeks of live racing on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights at Assiniboia Downs. So make a plan to get out there if you haven't already. Book a spot in the dining room for that amazing prime rib buffet if you're able to. And take it in before the season's over with just a few more days of live racing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays out at Assiniboia Downs. You can check out asdowns.com for more information. But, of course, free admission, free parking every night of live racing out at AS Downs. And our friends at Breezy just had the men's closing on the weekend. But already looking ahead to 2026. What an amazing year it was. Despite losing a couple days at the Manitoba Open, it was incredible to host the big tournament this year at Breezy, and great chance to show off everything that the course has done over the last 10 years or so, improving the golf course, changing holes, and all the improvements to the clubhouse and more. If you're thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, holler at our pal Corey Johnson at Breezy Bend or go online to breezybend.ca for more information on 2026 season membership. Let's get over to the Coolbet lines. How did things go for you yesterday, NFL-wise, Reem?
Let me tell you, it would have been a lot better if CeeDee Lamb didn't get hurt on a carry, wrecking all my lineups. I know that he's carried the ball before, but what a galaxy brain move, putting in your number 1 receiver in the backfield for a carry, and now he's out with an ankle sprain for 2 weeks, and I do have him as well in the media league. Ruining everyone's day, that CeeDee Lamb. So it was okay day for me, but it would have been a lot better if he could have participated in that game. What a disappointment. Someone should get fired for that.
I got absolutely smoked by Eddie Tate. Ed, and this was the worst. I was really enjoying the Vikings game.
Yes.
Until I realized that Ed had the Minnesota defense. 30 points for fantasy if you had the Minnesota defense yesterday. He also got 22 points from his kicker. Jonathan Taylor had a nice 31.
Ban kickers.
I mean, everyone was huge, so Eddie put it on me. But I did have, and I've stretched my brain. I've been betting on football for the better part of 3 decades. I don't think I've ever had a worse beat than the Rams plus 3.5 yesterday.
Oh.
They were up in the second half 26-7. Philly ended up coming back. They scored a late touchdown to go up by 1 and did not get the extra point. So Philly is up by 1. The Rams have the ball. There's 30 seconds left. They managed to move it far enough down the field to attempt a winning field goal that would have put them up by 2. The kick gets blocked, and one of the linemen return it the distance for a touchdown. They win by 7 and cover the spread in either the most miraculous bailout, if you were on the Eagles side of things, or the most crushing loss. And to top of it all, San Francisco had minus 2.5. Kyler Murray, an obvious safety in the end zones, not called that. San Francisco wins by 1 instead of 3. So there was a couple really, really bad beats. I was happy, though, to see the Chiefs win last night, although that was a very, very dreadful football game for the most part. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one. Much like the Bombers, they needed to win, and they got an ugly win. But, dude, Russell Wilson was so bad in that game. I have no idea how they wheel him out again for another start after what we saw last night against the Chiefs.
You know, I'm watching the game, and the Giants crowd is booing him. Like and Chris Collinsworth is saying, "Hey, Russell Wilson, he's leading the league in passing yards," and they're booing him. Well, not booing him. They're booing the play call and calling QB draws with 37-year-old Russell Wilson in the red zone, and he's standing there, and on fourth down and just firing it out of the back. What are they doing with these play calls? Are they even trying to win? There were way too many, like him scrambling and trying to run. It was gross. I don't blame them for booing. I think the play calling there was not great. So but it was QB draws in the near the goal line. What are they doing?
Yeah, that's a Jackson Dart call. If you're going to call that, you might want to have him in as opposed to Russie. Big games yesterday. Obviously, the Eagles comeback win over the Rams was a pretty significant one. How about the Green Bay Packers losing to Cleveland yesterday? By the way, the witching hour yesterday was so bananas. Kind of locked in on all of the games before we went to the hockey game. And I think there was 3 blocked field goals within about 5 minutes of real time. And one of those was the Packers looking to win their game against Cleveland. It got blocked, and then Cleveland was able to get the win. That one was the death knell for a lot of people's survivor pools this year.
I was happy that I did not take Green Bay in the survivor pool. I took Seattle, who smoked. And you mentioned, the witching hour. The second half of games, too, like I keep saying San Diego. The Chargers-Denver game, last-second field goal, and then 49ers won on a last-second field goal, too. So there were some great games yesterday. Really surprised that Atlanta put up a big fat 0 in Carolina. That was ultra disappointment. I thought Penix was decent. He got replaced by Kirk Cousins. And what was the other one? Yeah, and Tampa pulling it out with Baker Mayfield, too. There's a lot of exciting games. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor. The Colts keep rolling. And backups, quarterbacks getting it done. Marcus Mariota for Washington. So there were some good games yesterday. Definitely exciting Sunday. And I think tonight's game is like the main event of the weekend with the highest total with Detroit and Baltimore.
Yeah, let's head over and check the Coolbet lines out right now. And tonight's game has basically been here at 4.5 for the entire weekend. Has not moved off that right now. We've got Baltimore minus 4.5 at minus 105. The Lions getting 4.5 points at minus 111. The money line for the game, Detroit to win plus 211. Baltimore minus 233. And as Remis mentioned, a CFL-esque total of 54 for tonight's game. Now, I'm riding a big Derrick Henry game tonight. I think that, this Ravens team is going to be still pissed off after what happened against Buffalo in week 1. They took care of Cleveland last week. They're back in prime time. This is a big-time Derrick Henry game for me. The over-under on his rushing yards is 85.5, minus 116 to the over. If you think he can get over 90.5, it's plus 102, plus 123 for over 95.5. I've actually put together a little exclusive with the Coolbet boys. WST exclusive in the exclusives, the Ride With Us. Derrick Henry, 100-plus rushing yards, and the Ravens to cover 4.5. 3-1. So if you want to ride with me on that one, that is there in the Coolbet exclusives. And as we mentioned, no Blue Jays today. They are on a break. They'll begin their series with the Red Sox tomorrow. 3 games today in the majors. Washington at Atlanta. Atlanta minus 270 favorite. The Brewers are in San Diego to take on the Padres. 2 teams that potentially could meet up in the playoffs. Milwaukee even money or plus 101. Padres minus 119 favorites at home. And the final game is St. Louis and San Francisco. Giants minus 147 favorites at home. As far as the Canadian Football League goes, the Bombers have opened up as 1-point underdogs to the Ticats for on Saturday. The money line is Bombers minus 106, Hamilton minus 114. The other games, Calgary's a minus 1.5-point favorite in Montreal. I guess that I would take from that they're expecting that Vernon Adams plays. I'm not thinking that if they were going in with their third-string quarterback, they're going to be favored on the road against Montreal. Calgary minus 119 on the money line, Montreal minus 102. BC 10-point favorites at home against the Toronto Argonauts. And Saskatchewan 4-point road favorites in Edmonton against the Elks for this week's games in the Canadian Football League. And again, last week the Bombers were 20-1 to win the Grey Cup. They're 15-1 today after that big win. Riders are the favorite at plus 265. Ticats next at plus 285. Montreal plus 425. BC and Calgary both 7-1. And then a pretty big gap. And then the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 15-1. Argos plus 2150. Elks 35-1. Ottawa Redblacks pretty much done after their loss to Winnipeg. They are 100-1. Now, that is all waiting for you over at Coolbet. Again, use that promo code WST if you haven't played there before. And check out the poker, download it, and get ready to join us on Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the return of the WST Poker Series. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Who do you like in this Monday Nighter tonight?
In Baltimore, I'm going to roll with Baltimore. I know Detroit, they had the big offensive outburst, but that was Chicago. Different animal here. I think Baltimore can go toe-to-toe offensively with anyone. I do like your wager. If they're going to win and cover, Derrick Henry will have 100 yards. His yardage much higher in wins than losses. Very game script dependent, but huge total in here. So I hope we see a lot of points. An exciting game. Two great teams. So I'll go with Baltimore in this one.
Tomorrow, busy day on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Full reaction to today's Canadian Football League announcements of the changes moving forward. Jeff Hamilton and I will break it all down, and then we'll continue to we'll look for maybe one of the 3-down guys or somebody to come on with us for more reaction on Winnipeg Sports Talk tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow will be a preseason game day edition. Jonathan Toews and many of the veterans expected to suit up tomorrow for the Winnipeg Winnipeg Jets in preseason game number 2 after most of the youngsters played last night in a much less veteran lineup. We'll be live at 1 p.m. tomorrow with WST with the latest on the Jets as they get ready for preseason action, and more on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back in practice, and of course the announcements today from Stuart Johnson, Commissioner of the Canadian Football League. Huge thanks to everyone that joined us. Great to see everybody back. It was a big show today. Make sure to join us tomorrow as we get ready for Jonathan Toews to put that Winnipeg Jet jersey on for the first time in game situation before the Jets drop the puck at Canada Life Centre tomorrow in their second of 3 home preseason games. Big thanks to John Shannon and Dustin Nielson for jumping on with us today, and everyone who was firing it up in the chat. Very interesting show today with a lot of great viewpoints expressed by all of you. Enjoy the Monday Nighter tonight, and we'll look forward to doing it all again tomorrow right here live on YouTube, 1 o'clock p.m., and tomorrow afternoon in your podcast feed. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.